Yeah, but for me, I mean, especially, it's probably like a little bit of a cop-out, but growing up in St. Louis, like Anheuser-Busch and the whole Budweiser was literally right down the street. And so growing up, you know, almost everybody I knew was having a beer, a Budweiser or a Bud Light, you know, at any point in high school. Like, so the introduction was not expected, but it was much more normalized. Everybody's parents had like a little bit of a different, you know, maybe I don't want you out this late, or I don't want you at, you know, driving, or I don't want you at this person specifically's house, or, you know, not during whatever that rule was. It wasn't as much of a culture of like, you do not drink until X point in your life, or until you have this or that. It was more of like, yeah, you know, here's a part of all this. Throw it into that equation while you're growing up and everything. And so from my first drink until, you know, till now, it was a much different journey, because that introduction wasn't as harsh of a, this was before and now I am the way I am. But that's how I came into it, you know, and everybody's introduction into alcohol is a little different. And some people like kind of wait till later in life and everything.
Yeah. So for me, in high school, I was definitely straight and narrow. Straight. But definitely straight.
Definitely narrow.
Definitely narrow. I didn't smoke, didn't drink. You know, I had a great friend group where we all kind of made this pact with each other about, hey, you know, we are athletes. We're gonna take care of our bodies.
Right.
We are going to train. On the weekends, we were playing League of Legends. We weren't going out.
Okay, yeah.
Literally. And it was
very different then.
Very different. And it was cool because my two best friends lived a street apart. So you could walk to each other's house.
Right.
So, being said, I didn't drink or smoke or necessarily even party in high school. Mm-hmm. I was never necessarily invited to parties in high school because I don't want to say, oh, it's because I just wasn't drinking, right? Like, be like one of those people, it's like, I was better than them.
No, yeah.
Also, I just wasn't the vibe. Like, because like, even if I was there, I was in the corner, right? I was awkward. I was socially awkward. And a story that resonates with me is, it was my senior year, just turned 18. It's New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. And I'm with some friends, and we're just kind of party hopping from house to house. I'm driving because obviously I'm not drinking or anything.
Right.
And my boy hits me up and he's like, hey, there's this huge party going on here. Would you guys be down to go? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm down to go. He's like, okay, for sure. He invited me. Let me ask if it's cool if y'all come.
Right. The
Definitely.
classic test.
Exactly. like the classic pre-party checklist.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, literally.
Like, especially in high school. And so the guy that's hosting the party gets back to him and says, hey, bro, it's cool if all you boys pull up. But I talked to my mom because the mom was home. That was just, you know, like, just make sure everything didn't get too out of control.
Naturally.
Right? I talked to my mom, and she said no to LJ coming because she knows that LJ's mom wouldn't want him in this environment. Mm. And so that hurt, definitely, like that.
It sucks.
Right?
It just sucks.
And,
right?
But I understood. It wasn't like it was like, hey, like, we don't fuck with LJ, right? Like from the high school perspective, it wasn't like, oh, I wasn't invited because they didn't fuck with me,
I'm not
right?
Cool enough.
Right, exactly. It wasn't like that. It was like, damn, like, I can't go somewhere because of people being scared of my mom.
Yeah,
right.
That's what it sounds like.
Right, and so I'm like, hey boys, go ahead. Like, I'll spend New Year's Eve at home. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want you guys to not go because of me.
Right.
And the part that bothered me, and you could call it my villain origin story, right, was I told my mom what had happened, and she was like, you know, I really respect her. Thank you. I appreciate her for knowing that I wouldn't want you there.
Right. Yeah.
And me being an 18-year-old, hindsight's 20/20. Honestly, if I could go back or tell my 18-year-old self, I'd say, hey, you're going to have plenty of opportunities on New Year's to have a good time.
Right.
Right. And I'll say, hey, you're 18. You do live under her house. It's her rules. At 18, senior, you feel like you're the cock of the wall, right?
You're
like,
not exactly thinking about other people that often.
No, you're thinking about yourself and
ever.
yourself only.
100%.
And thinking about, you know, wanting to go have a good time, you know, see what girls are there.
Right.
And so I even believe the mom actually contacted my mom, was like, hey, I want to let you know that I said no to LJ coming because I know that it's an environment that you wouldn't want him in. Mm. And so I remember being so frustrated with my mom because you knew why I couldn't go. Mm-hmm. The mom told you, which, yeah, respect the mom.
Good on her.
Good on her.
That's the expectation for an adult, is
right,
to understand what the other adults are wanting.
Exactly. And then I remember when my mom told me that the mom had reached out and explained to her why she didn't want me coming. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking in my head, I've been as good as a kid as you could have asked for. Mm. I play sports. I'm really fucking good at them. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I never do anything I'm not supposed to do. I'm never out past curfew.
Right.
On weekends, I'm playing video games with my friends, literally so close to the house that you could throw a baseball and hit the other house.
Right.
You know exactly where I'm at all times. And it felt to me like you couldn't trust me to say, you know what? My kid's 18. It's a senior year. Go have a good time tonight. Be safe.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and as an 18-year-old, I felt like I had no power. When at 18, you want power, right?
Yeah.
You want the power over yourself. And it felt that I had just been denied an opportunity to do something fun because of my mom. And that's not something that any 18-year-old wants.
The worst feeling in the world. Like, FOMO is already a thing, and for it to be like, because my mommy said no, is like just doubling on top of that.
Right. And then to know that my mom could have just said, hey, thank you for reaching out. I trust him. It sounds so dumb.
Yeah.
Right. But that's how I thought. I was like, you then had the opportunity to kind of vouch for me and say, hey, I appreciate you reaching out. I don't mind if he goes. I trust him.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't do that.
No.
So it felt to me like I do everything to be perfect for you. Right. So that way you can go and brag to your friends and say how my son doesn't do X, Y, and Z. But the one time where I'm asking you to trust me, it never was a thought.
Yeah.
And so I get to college. It's my first year at DU. I'm no longer playing college sports. So I have a lot more free time. I'm no longer in that structure. So it's my first time also not having structure. So through that too, I had a lot of social anxiety because in high school, yes, I had my childhood friends that I grew up with, but also there's something about having a team behind you.
Right.
You always have friends.
Yep.
Right? Because you're a part of a team. Same thing in college.
Yep.
I had friends. I was invited to college parties because I had friends.
Right.
But then getting to a university where I don't know anybody and I'm not a part of a team, it's like, okay, so now I don't have to be up at 6 a.m. But also, I don't know anyone on this campus.
Right.
And I also went to the University of Denver where I didn't really know anyone that went to there from my high school. It was CU or CSU. So I didn't really know anybody. So I no longer had baseball. That was a huge part of my identity.
Right.
I start making friends and I'm in college. What is something college kids do? Party. And so I'm around it and I'm like, this seems pretty fun, you know? And everyone was very inviting, accepting.
Get down.
Yeah. I start dabbling and partying, right?
Just dipping your toe in.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
like
testing out the waters.
But in this time and dabbling with partying, I find friends that are super accepting of the fact that I don't drink. Because, you know, going in I still didn't drink yet.
Right.
So they were always like, hey, like, if you don't drink, that's completely okay.
Yeah.
Like you can still come. You don't have to drink. You'll be our DD.
Yeah.
Right?
We need one. So
Exactly.
that's perfect, actually.
Exactly. And so that comfort, I was like, you know, I want to try it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, maybe it'll help with some social anxiety. Right? So I start initially drinking, and I have a blast. I no longer am the kid in the side of the room. I'm the kid that's like, what's up, Pee-wee? Grab the Jose Cuervo, get on a knee,
Bam.
and I can just take a pull, get up. Everyone's like, LJ, like, big dog. And I'm just like playing Meat Meal in the background, going bad, like, just like feeling it, right?
Yeah.
And girls are paying attention to me, and guys are paying attention to me. And to be completely honest, I also felt like I had been accepted by people I had never been accepted by before. Party culture.
Right.
White culture.
Ooh.
Which is a whole different conversation.
That is a whole different conversation.
But I felt like I had been accepted. All of a sudden, girls were interested in me. All of a sudden, I'm the guy who is like, hey, like, how many girls are we going to make out with tonight? Dude, in high school, never. Never.
You're like, I'm working on talking to one.
Literally.
So
Dude, like, I was untouched for a while. So it was a 360. I took on this persona of being the nose stuck up, I don't drink kid to LJ's a great time. So everything shifted for me. And then there was one night where we are leaving a frat party and I'm with my friends. There's me and a girl. Me on the right side, girl in the middle. And this girl has her hand on my lap. There's a bottle of Smirnoff right between us. And we're heading to this one pregame before we hit the bars. Anyone at DU knows you don't go out till like midnight.
Nah, what's the point?
Right? So we're like, all right, let's go pregame a little more and then we're gonna hit the bars. So my mom at the time would text me like 5 times a day.
Oof.
And so she's texting me. She's like, something's off. Are you drunk? And I send back, I'm fucking hammered. And in that moment, not only was there the ego that I had built up in college, right? That new persona I had built up in college. But then it was, I have freedom. You have no say in this matter.
Yeah.
And what's one thing that I know would piss her off that she never wanted me to do? Drink. Right? So I'm fucking hammered. You can't do anything about it. You can't come and take my keys. You can't come and tell me not to go. You can't control me. I felt freedom. For the first time, I felt like I had emerged from this cocoon of confidence, and now also I have freedom. No one can tell me no. I started to find comfort in partying.
Yeah, and it's no matter how or when you start drinking. Like I got to the point in the past couple of years where I was like, my life is for the most part put together. When I drink, it goes awry. Not like destroying my life. It used to be like that a lot, but just essentially coming to the point where I was like, I'm doing so much right, and there's still so much that goes wrong when I start drinking. What is going on? So I was like, I need to start. I know myself. If I understand the full picture of what's happening in my mistakes and my successes, then I'll be able to understand what the next step is to the next iteration of myself, so that I can keep growing, I can keep moving forward. And so that led me down this whole rabbit hole of how your brain works when everything's going well. And, the dopamine releases of getting a task done, getting a workout done, getting a new job, getting a promotion, getting a raise. But then, of course, the more interesting and the harder part is diving into like, what is going on in my brain and in my body when I'm messing up? And like, I just cannot figure out how to put I have the phone number, I have each individual digit, but the order is still wrong. So when I call, I don't get the person I'm looking for. And what I read and what my research came to was like these eye-opening realizations of something as simple as when you start drinking, it turns off the receptors in your prefrontal cortex that have what they call head-to-toe inhibitions, top to bottom. So when you start drinking, all the feeling that you had when you were in high school of like, I'm a good kid. I get my grades done. I get my sports done. I do it all well. I'm constantly, as you described, like being the son that you can tell your friends to. So not only are your inhibitions being attached towards just growing up and just being in life where, as it's no matter how old you are, when you're navigating conversations, should I say something like this? Oh, well, then they might take it this way. Should I say it like that? Well, then they might take it that way. How do I look? Do I look okay? And that's where you're at the side of the room, right? Because you're only thinking about how you're being perceived by everybody else. And when you're thinking about how you're perceived, yeah, of course you're going to resort into like what's safe, which is I'm not going to say too much. I'm not going to do too much. I'm not going to do anything crazy because I don't want to come across like that. I don't want them to interpret it like this. So knowing that alcohol breaks down all of those functions and knowing that your functions like that were at a higher like tension rate because of your desire to be that perfect kid, all of a sudden you have this perfect storm of the first time you drink, it's like you've exhaled for the first time. And it happens no matter if you've been drinking for 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 months, or it's the first time you're drinking, that feeling of, ooh, it's all gone. I don't have to worry so much. So then, like you said, you move from the outside of the room into the middle of the room, and then you're able to, it feels like you're being yourself finally. And that's where you said, like, you can't stop me anymore. I wanted to be this person. It was my fear that kept me from doing it. Now I have all the freedom of being in college, and this alcohol just like releases the last tether of my stresses.
Yes.
And so then you have that.
It cuts the cord.
It cuts the cord. And at first, like, that cord's easy to cut. You go in, boom, shot of Jose, beer bong something in the middle of the room, and you're feeling good. So you're like, I love drinking because I'm going to have a good time. And that's where I feel a lot of people are their first couple years of college, right? It's like, no, me and my closest friends, and we all live in the same dorm or the same campus. None of our parents are here. We don't have work. We don't have bills. I mean, 90% of people don't have bills in college. Like, they're either on scholarship or bankrolled in some way.
Right.
So we don't have any of these bad things. We're going to have fun. And that's what that introduction to alcohol is. And that's the relationship that your brain creates it too. Is like, well, when I drink, whether I'm conscious of it or not, my inhibitions are going away. My inhibitions are gone. So now I'm carrying a lighter load around when I'm walking around. So the world is brighter. Everything seems more fun. All these people who, you know, we all have some of those times where it's like, I love hanging out with that person when we're drinking. And then when we're not, I cannot stand to be around them. All of those thoughts of like, what is it? Am I actually processing what? No, you're not. When you're drinking, you're not thinking about anything in a serious matter. So that's the introduction to it. And that's how, in my opinion, that's what hooks everybody from alcohol. It's that feeling of, boom, oh my God. You mean I can just be myself, like just be whatever my natural inclinations are going to take me to. If it's doing that drink in the middle of the floor, if it's dancing a little harder, if it's even just talking a little louder. Like, you notice at parties, like, that first, like, 30 minutes, everything's, like, cool. Everybody's getting their first kind of drink. Yeah, music's playing, but everybody's still kind of in their
in their little
reservation.
pods.
Yeah, they're in their pods. Whoever you showed up to the party with, you're just with them. You know, that's how it was for me. Like, I'd roll up. It's 3 or 4 of us. The first 20, 25 minutes, we're like, okay, do you want to play beer pong? Okay, cool. We'll be teammates. All right, cool. Let's start playing. That's cool. That's cool. And then everybody knows, like, 25, 30, 45, definitely by the hour of that party when everybody's been drinking already, everybody's starting to talk a little louder. Everybody's talking a little loud, so everybody has to. And then the next day, you're like, why is my voice hurt?
And the music's like, banging. That's how the noise complaints come in.
Because now everybody's dancing, everybody's having. So everybody at like as this one entity of a party has let go of those inhibitions. Now everybody's dancing. Now you're not talking to your. At the end of the night, you know, you're talking to your friends the next day, and you're like, dude, yeah, we were doing this, and then what did you end up doing? Oh, dude, I met this guy, this girl, ended up talking to him out back for like 45 minutes. I don't even know what we were talking about. We had like a deep heart to heart, and your other friend's like, dude, I was in the car for like 3 hours. We were driving around trying to find a gas station that was open, or, you know, this person just had a different party, so we went to hit it, and then it's like, oh, we all ended up splitting up at some point. Because we walked in as one unit, boom, that's our safety, that's our group, that's our pack. And then after those inhibitions leave, it's like, oh, now I'm free to just go explore. And like, I'm not worried about what's going to happen anymore. And that feeling is just so addictive. You know what I'm saying? So then from there, drinking can sometimes turn into something a little deeper, obviously.
Yeah, and I love how you said all of that. Because for me, the first time I drank was the best time.
Always.
Right? It's always the best time.
Without a doubt.
And for someone like myself who has an addictive personality, as well as ADHD, and they're coming out with more studies about how ADHD can play into alcoholism.
Oh, for sure. Not surprised.
Is, for myself, that first feeling of dopamine before the feeling of freedom, before the feeling of feeling like that guy, right? It was, this is a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah.
And I feel
Straight
great.
Up. Yeah.
Right? When I first started to drink, I wasn't drinking in excess. I wasn't blacking out.
Right.
I remember the first time I blacked out, I was like, so that's what that's like. Like, it scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't drinking to do any of those things, or those things weren't happening prevalently. However, I didn't see at the time the monster I was creating. I had a lot of social anxiety. I would find myself walking into a party saying, okay, you can feel that social anxiety creeping up, almost like you can feel that monster creeping out of the shadows. Take this shot, it'll shut them up, send them right to the back for 30 minutes. Right. Take that shot, boom, good to go. I'm feeling kind of down about something. Take that pull, good to go. As that began to unfold, I realized over time, the more so that I felt my life was a mess, I started to gravitate towards alcohol and partying as, well, it doesn't matter because I'm drunk.
Right.
Oh, this isn't going how I want it to go in life. I'm going to go distract myself. I'm going to go to my comfort zone. I'm not controlling what I want to control right now. Shit's not working. Shit's not going how I would like it to go. So I'm going to go to where my comfort zone is, partying. So that being said, as the more stress I feel in my life, the more of a mess my life feels. Not romantically,
right?
Not socially. I'm talking about real life.
Yeah.
How I'm doing in school, how I'm doing with my jobs, how I'm doing financially,
how you're treating your friends,
how I'm treating my friends, how I'm treating my family. As that all begins to unfold in a negative way, I start to find comfort in alcohol because this will distract me. Yeah. And then that's when I begin to notice a shift in when I drink, I now feel energy. I feel like I am thinking more clearly. Yeah. Oh, this is actually bugging me. Yeah. And I'm going to go say that.
I better say it right now. Right. I've been holding on to this for too long.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where the shift turns from alcohol being like oh, this is a fun time. I have fun when I'm doing this, and I like to have fun. That's all. When you think of it, when you look at drinking from that perspective, it all seems very positive. You know that it's going to be a good time when you're doing it. You're really seeking what is bringing light into your life, right? And that's the difference in general of running towards something good or running away from something bad. And it's always good to run towards something good. But if you're running away from something, it's probably best to stop and be like, hold on, what what's back there that's so scary? If I just go deal with that, then I can move forward. And that's, when I realize like, oh, I feel better when I'm drinking because that prefrontal cortex is shutting down. I'm a naturally very stressed person. I'm a naturally very introverted person and introspective person. So when I'm just going about my day, I'm usually thinking, did I have that conversation the right way? Should I walk a little differently if I'm at work? Should I walk a little differently when I'm in the grocery store? Should I be more all of those thoughts that are horrible to like say out loud because you realize how meaningless they are. But that's just naturally what's going on in my head. So when I realized, oh, that's why I feel better when I'm drinking, it helped me to understand like, okay, there's no magic potion going on in there. It's okay if I need a shortcut to feeling my inhibitions go down. But then I was like, okay, well now I know that there's a longer pathway towards feeling that way without having to drink. But then the other portion of what I recognized and what I read was, oh, that feeling of, like you said, now I'm more stressed. Now I'm thinking more about how I am in the world, about how I'm treating my family, about how I'm treating my work. What that is when you drink, you get that spike in serotonin. You're like, whew, that prefrontal cortex is shutting down. The system that your body does to almost like balance that is also the higher release of cortisol. And anybody who's gotten their blood pressure checked knows that cortisol is what leads to stress. It's what leads to all that tight feeling of life just isn't going the way I think it's supposed to. So when you drink, you get that hit of serotonin, but then you get excess amounts of cortisol. And that cortisol will last for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And when you're drinking repeatedly, every single Saturday, I'm having 10, 15 drinks. Well, then you're just constantly on a cycle of higher cortisol, and your brain and your body is expecting that. And so not only do you need more as your tolerance gets higher, you need more alcohol in order to shut off that prefrontal cortex. Before you come in, you get your shot of Jose. Oh, you're feeling good. That prefrontal cortex is shut down. Now your tolerance is getting higher, so instead of 1 shot, you need 2 or 3 shots. You need 4, 5, 6 beers. So that tolerance is going up, but then the more you're drinking because of that increased tolerance, boom, the higher that cortisol level is. So that's where I realized I was getting into this cycle of addiction because my tolerance went way higher. So I had to drink more. I would drink more, so then I would feel more stressed out. So it's like, instead of coming back, you're at 0, and then when you drink, oh, I feel good. I'm at like a 3, 4, 5. It's not like you go back down to 0 once you start sobering up. That increased cortisol brings you to -1, -2, -3. So now you need more drinks to get back to baseline, which then repeats the entire cycle. Now when you're getting sober, you're at -5, -6, -7. So you're, like you said, no drunk is as good as that first drunk, because that's the only time you're at that 0. After that, every time you drink subsequently, you're starting from a more and more and more negative position. You need more alcohol to get back to 0. Now you're at 0, you're like, well, I'm trying to get to that first drunk. So let me I feel okay now. Maybe I could stop and you could slowly work back to resetting all the systems going on in your brain. But no, you go past that.
If I have just one more shot.
Just one more shot, I'll feel even good. Oh, that one shot felt great. Well, I guess that felt good, so I guess I could take another shot. It's almost like we're expecting at some point to take a drink and be like, ugh, that wasn't any good. I'm going to go. And right. there are some people who can operate like that, but for us to recognize like, okay, if we're falling into this cycle of feeling like I need to drink more leading up to drinking, and then when I am drinking, I feel like I need to drink more to feel drunk, and then after drinking, I feel like I'm more stressed than I was before, okay, well then you're probably at a point now where you need to reset. And it's hard to recognize that because, especially like you said, when you're in a group of people where everybody's drinking, then it feels like it's just a you thing. Everybody can go out on Saturday night. Everybody's getting their stuff done during the week. Oh, there must be something wrong with me. I guess I'll have to pregame before I go to the pregame, because then at least I can come in and I'm matching their level, and then we can all get drunk at the same time. But of course, that begets this negative spiral into a point where you're like, now I'm drunk. I don't even feel good. I would have to get completely blacked out drunk to even feel that stress relief. So now I'm drinking by myself. It's Tuesday. Just pounded a bunch of beers, and here I am, alone, sad, wondering what the hell I did to find myself into this part of life. You know what I'm saying?
So piggybacking off what you were saying, I then found myself, I am getting drunk, and I'm still stressed.
Yeah, for sure.
And not only am I still stressed, but when you're drunk, everything's enhanced.
Yeah.
Right? If you're sad, you're more sad.
Yeah.
If you're happy, you are way more happy.
Way happier.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sex is great sex.
It is. It's some of the best you'll have.
Oh, for sure. But so I am finding that I am no longer enjoying being drunk.
Right.
And talking about how I was the life of the party. People wanted to be around me. People wanted me there.
Yeah.
I then started to see it shift to, I'm going to take this shot, dap up my boys, take a quick Snapchat with somebody, and then I'm going to the bedroom or I'm going to the restroom to hold it together where I'm extremely intoxicated.
Yeah.
I'm about to throw up. But I know I should stop.
Right.
But I'm not going to. And then there's that part of over intoxication, but then there's, I am extremely sad because I am not where I want to be in my life.
Right.
And I no longer can drink to avoid it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here in a bathroom trying not to throw up, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror saying, what has happened to you?
Yeah.
Figure your shit out. Honestly.
Yeah.
That being said, seeing myself on that decline, I didn't want to look at that person in the mirror. I didn't see that I was coming back full circle on a cycle I didn't know I was on. I went from being the kid that wasn't invited to parties to being the kid that was the party to then being the kid that wasn't invited to parties again. Because it went from, oh, LJ's so funny, such a good time, to, dude, I don't know if you should invite LJ because I'm not trying to drink that much tonight. I can't black out tonight, and he's going to drink a lot.
And that's the only... Anytime I see him drink, he goes to
Hard.
the nth degree, and I just can't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Or putting some friends in some situations that they never should have been in because they can handle their shit.
Right.
Right? Where seeing that I don't handle my shit.
Yeah.
Just point blank period.
Right.
Where I'm putting my friends in dangerous situations where I tell them I'm going to be DD and I'm not DD. I should not be behind a wheel.
You're the DDD.
And yeah, the designated drunk driver.
Yeah.
And that is something that my friend Katie, shout out to Katie, she's always been real with me when I needed it. I didn't want it all the time, but she was always real. She said, you self-sabotage. You don't know it, but you self-sabotage. When you start drinking, you turn into a different person. Yeah. My mom has said it. And of course, when my mom said it, I was like, whatever. But having your friend say it, totally it hit different.
Yeah.
And seeing that I am putting my friends in dangerous situations, I am beginning to treat my family in ways that they never deserved, that I would never want to treat them. That I am ruining and have ruined relationships with good people that maybe it wasn't the friendship that was meant to last forever, but it was ended prematurely because I was self-sabotaging and acting as a poor friend.
Yeah.
And it was a full reset. It went from a toss-up. You could get the LJ that's a great time. You're going to have the time of your life. Or you're going to see LJ get really mad and you got to take him home. Or you're going to see LJ get really sad and you got to deal with that. Yeah. And you've seen it.
Yeah.
And God, it's saying it out loud. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Saying it out loud, there's guilt. There's shame. There's embarrassment. There's self-hate. Like, why the fuck? To so many things. Yeah. But then there's this feeling of gratitude and appreciation because I was allowed the opportunity 6-7 months ago to hit the reset button. A lot of people aren't given the opportunity to hit the reset button without repercussions. Right. Or repercussions to an extent. I am very blessed, grateful, lucky, all those words combined. 100%. To be able to have that oh shit moment, hit that reset button, and be able to continue on with my life.
Yeah, not have a record.
Not have a record. Just being very...
That's a huge repercussion. That,
being
honestly,
very upfront.
And that's what a lot of people, like, before they're able to get to that point that you're at now, they do have something that, you know, whether it's a criminal record, but more so like anything in life that will just officially be with you for the rest of the time that you're trying to get better. And so you had that opportunity without having that permanent baggage to say, like, and again, you had the wisdom to be like, before I get that permanent baggage, I should probably make a change.
And it's that permanent baggage in terms of a record. Hurting myself, hurting someone else. It's scary as shit. Yeah. And I look back at those moments and it's scary as shit. And it's really easy for me to look back at those moments and all the fun moments I had leading up to it don't matter. Right. And being 6 months sober, yeah, I'm 6 months sober. And it took me a long time to acknowledge that I'm an alcoholic. I have alcoholic tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
I have an addictive personality. And being a 24-year-old, you don't always want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier about you start to see those permanent effects 10, 20, 30, 40 years out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the road I was on. And yes, it sucks. It sucked at the time, not only living with the guilt of certain instances, but when you're 24, you don't want to say, I can't go out. You don't want to say, at least for myself, I didn't want to say I can't go out. I didn't want to say I can't have that drink. I literally cannot have that drink or it's going to end up with 12.
Yeah.
And it's easier to run from your demons than to face them.
Mm-hmm.
But it is 10,000 times worth it to face them.
Without a doubt.
And it reminds me of this TED Talk by Johann Hari where he talks about addiction is a lack of connection.
Yeah.
And the more connected with myself that I get through self-love, self-expression, self-forgiveness, the less desire I have to drink.
Yeah.
However, the way my brain is wired, if you were to offer me a drink and I were to take it, it would lead to 11 or 12. It wouldn't be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Granted, and results may be different. So I'm in a different headspace. Might not get sad. Might not get angry. May not self-sabotage. But I'm going to have 11 or 12. And that's just the fact of I've scoped my brain to think that way.
Yeah.
I didn't see the monster I was creating when I would have a shot or two. Okay, all of a sudden, I'm not worried anymore. Okay, I want to recreate that feeling of how I did going to that Brockhampton concert.
Yeah.
I need to have a bottle.
Yeah.
But now, I'm so stressed out, I'm not enjoying any of it. And I'm the last one up at night. I am still wanting to drink when everyone is done. I'm not enjoying drinking. I'm not drinking to stop. Where, okay, I've reached that level, I'm done. I'm drinking to forget about what's going on. I'm drinking to disappear from what's going on. To then, I'm now alone. I feel alone.
Yeah.
Right? I don't regret, luckily, any experience I had from the beginning to the end of partying.
Right.
I needed all of them to get here.
No
I
question.
needed the goods, the bads, and the really fucking uglies. I needed the fun, drunk on the porch, cigarette smoking conversations. I needed the, hey, what the fuck are you doing conversations.
Yeah.
I needed all of that. I needed the moments of sitting there on a Sunday morning just feeling like shit. I needed that moment of a Saturday night at Whiskey Row after the Avs won the championship. Like, I needed all those moments. And through all those moments, I see that I have all the power. I don't need to be drunk to feel confident. I don't need to be drunk to enter a room and know that I'm him. Right? I don't need to go out to be self-validated.
Right.
And through sobriety, I'm able to see all of that. I have a connection not only with myself, but with my sister, with my mom, with my dad, with you that's stronger than ever, with my friends. I am a healthier person for myself, which allows me to be a healthier person for everybody else. And that's where it comes down to sobriety. To me, it's not for everyone around me, it's for myself.
Yeah.
But I use that fuel of everyone around me to help keep me going. If that makes me sense. It's those moments of, I am never going back to that.
Yeah.
I will never put someone in that position again. I will never make someone feel that way again.
Yeah.
I will never treat myself like that again.
More important than anything.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. It's been the toughest, scariest, uncomfortable journey of my life, but I am as happy as I've ever been.
Yeah, and I think more importantly than anything else, just seeing what that took out of you to just say that out loud, like, to me, what I know for sure is you've gone through the hardest part of the hardest part, which is, like I said, like when you're in that cycle of you're feeling so low because you've kind of taken the shortcut to feeling good in that first shot, and then you need Next time it's 2 shots. Next time it's 3 shots. All of a sudden, you got to where you were, where you wake up and you're like, I'm the saddest person in the room. I'm drinking just to drink, to attempt to try to get to that same happy place, but it never happens anymore. You sunk so low into this hole that, like you said, luckily, thankfully, like as somebody as your friend, thankfully you got to that point where, it was one too many times and you're like, before something permanent does happen, before I do something that I can't reverse, let me take this time to get sober and go through, like you said, that 6-month period that they say it takes, like anywhere from 2 to 6 months. The deeper you were in it, the longer it takes. But at that 6-month marker, you do start to reset all those levels. And seeing where you're at now, it's still hard for you to say that. It's still hard for you to go back into that place that you were when you were feeling so alone and so empty. So you've gotten the hardest part done. You're back to square one, which is, it sounds like, what was the point? But that's really hard to do. So you're able to be proud of yourself. And again, looking at somebody from your friend, now from the outside, I see that your relationship with your family is really strong. On Saturday, I call you. I'm like, dude, I need a day. I'm going to spend it with Kelsey and my dog. You don't take that as like, oh, I have a day, so I'm going to do something by myself, or I'm going to self-gratify in any way, shape, or form. No, you take that as an opportunity to spend time with your sister, to develop that relationship, to develop that, just going back to your quote, that connection. So you've established those connections, which will fill the hole that the addiction used to keep. And then from now on, do you still have the hardest part of the easy part, which is getting to know all yourself? Those moments where you're like, you have to pause and take in the gravity of what that emotional state was for yourself. Just guess what? Just like you said, it's always easier to run away from your demons. You've stopped running. Now you're looking them in the eye. You had to run backwards just to get to them because your body was so far ahead of running away. So that 6 months of sobering up, now you're able to look yourself in the eye and you're like, okay, I'm not going to drink to get through you. You still have that hard part of getting through it. But now what do you have? You have all the connections with your family. You have your sister. You and I have a deeper and better connection as opposed to what it was before, which was, we're both down to go get hammered. Cool. It was not meeting up every single day to drink together, but it was every Saturday night or so, after the week's worth of stress had built up perfectly. Again, after those cortisol levels were getting to their highest point, you and I were like, let's go get drunk. And we were very good at it.
Oh.
we were successful every time we attempted to get drunk.
You're talking about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
and our relationship now was able to transfer from, I do still drink. It's much, much less now. My journey was, I had a forced sobriety for 8 to 10 months, somewhere in that range, like 2 years ago. So I had to go through that 6-month period that was also really, really hard. And I, from that sobriety, like refound my love for fitness. And that was the connection to myself that I needed. That when I did go back to drinking, I made some of those same old mistakes of drinking too much, running too fast away. But I was able to kind of slowly tinker with the equation until I realized, again, it really came from my research. When I recognized that a chronic drinker is anybody who drinks 7 to 15 drinks per week, whether that's 2 a day over 7 days, or my favorite thing to do, which is have 15 in one day on Saturday or Sunday night, because I could put them away. Like
a little Henny in the action,
a little bottle mixed with a 6-pack, ain't no problem. You know what I'm saying? So once that clicked in my head of like, I know, just like you said, like coming to terms at 24 of like, I'm an alcoholic, I have alcoholic tendencies. For me, I was always like, no, I don't have a problem. I just really need to stop after the 10th drink. And then when I realized, no, if I even have 7 in every Saturday, that still puts me into the long-term effects that are going to be coming in. Then I was like, okay, well, I know how much I'm drinking now. It was like, 15 a week, again, usually squeezed into one day. I was like, okay, well, I'll drop that from 15 to 12. I'll drop that from 12 to 10. I'll drop that from 10 to 6. I'll drop that 6-pack from every week to every other week. And now I'm at the point where I'll go 3 weeks without drinking. I don't even think about it, you know? So it took both of us, like, we both had to have that long reset period. And so I'm able to come to you from hey, after that 8 months, I made the mistake of jumping back into those same habits. I reached perfectly that idea of like, I can exercise. That gives me kind of the same feeling as drinking. Took 6 months just to get there. Then I made the mistake of jumping right back into a bottle and a 6-pack every week and just doing that over and over again. It took making more of the same mistakes before I was able to like, remember what I felt like when I wasn't drinking? Okay, I remember what it feels like then. I know what this feels like. They're so far away. So then that was what gave me the decision of, okay, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to do it in my own way, which in my own way, it's a tinkering. And that's how I do my whole life, from my relationship with work, where came out, had a teaching job, loved it, poured my entire self into it, burned myself out. Had a gym job, ran a gym, loved it, poured my entire self into it, burned myself out. So it wasn't just in alcohol, it was in every facet of my life that I was like, I'm going to these extremes and it's not working. So whether it's work, whether it's my relationship with Kelsey, my relationship with my family, I'm going to tinker until I figure this out. And I'm still tinkering to this day, but again, kudos to yourself. You've gone through the hardest part of the hardest part. Now, as somebody who's been on the other side looking back, to not make the same mistakes that I did, which is what anybody hopes for. Again, just recognize that, like, yes, it is going to still be hard, but once you face that demon, there will come this time when you wake up and you feel free from all of it. And you look back at the mistakes you made when you were drinking. And like, I look back at them now and I'm like, oh man, that was the wrong decision, but I almost laugh. I'm like, man, I just had no clue that I could face it like this, or that I could approach it like this, or that if I, have my home life, my work life, my hobby life all set up, then I can introduce it in this way or that. And there's no right answer for anybody. I don't think never drinking again would be the answer for me personally. But that's from, again, going through that moment, having multiple occasions where I was able to recognize that was too much or that was the right amount, and figuring that out to the point where I was able to, soak up every experience that I wanted to in life. And that's my biggest fear, is missing out on an experience. And for people like us, alcohol frequently gets in the way of experiences. And so you're at that point now, you've hit that reset, you're able to look forward, and it's going to be hard, but now that you've established those connections to fill that addiction hole, nothing but confidence that as long as you stay true to who you are and you don't do anything that you feel is compromising yourself, you'll be in a good position.